The Bucks just delivered a harsh wake-up call to Andre Jackson Jr. Milwaukee, it's only the preseason, but sometimes the smallest lineup decision can speak the loudest. For Andre Jackson Jr., the Milwaukee Bucks' athletic and energetic second-year guard, being benched in favor of a player on a training camp contract might be the moment that defines his early NBA career. In Milwaukee's 117-111 preseason win over the Detroit Pistons, head coach Doc Rivers handed more minutes to Amir Coffey, a late-camp addition fighting for his professional life, than to Jackson, the 2023 second-round pick who was supposed to be part of the franchise's future. Coffey's stat line didn't jump off the page: 3 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist in 15 minutes. But the decision carried an unmistakable message. Jackson logged just 11 minutes, scoring 4 points and grabbing 1 rebound, and once again looked like a player unsure of his role in a system that hasn't figured out how to use him. On paper, this might seem like meaningless October experimentation, but in reality, it's a clear and sobering indicator of where Jackson now stands, on the edge of Milwaukee's rotation, and possibly on the edge of the roster. A familiar pattern in Milwaukee for years, the Bucks have struggled to balance championship urgency with player development. Since the arrival of Giannis Antetokounmpo as a perennial MVP and Chris Middleton as his longtime running mate, Milwaukee's identity has been built on veteran experience and win-now reliability. The side effect of that approach has been an alarming pattern: young players rarely get the runway to grow. From Jordan Rue to Sam Merrill to MarJon Beacham, talented prospects have seen their roles shrink before they could truly prove themselves. Jackson now finds himself at the center of that same tension, a player with evident defensive upside but little offensive refinement, caught between the Bucks' need for instant contribution and his own development timeline. Doc Rivers, entering his first full season at the helm, has emphasized structure, discipline, and spacing. Jackson, for all his athletic gifts, doesn't perfectly fit that mold, and the early signs suggest Rivers might not be patient enough to wait for him to. Jackson's rookie year promise meets frustration. Jackson's rookie season offered glimpses of why the Bucks were so intrigued when they drafted him 36th overall out of UConn in 2023. At 6'6" with a 7-foot wingspan, Jackson brought the kind of defensive tenacity Milwaukee had been missing on the perimeter. His combination of quickness, anticipation, and willingness to guard multiple positions made him a fan favorite among those who appreciate the dirty work. But the same strengths that made him valuable defensively also highlighted his offensive shortcomings. His jump shot remained unreliable, and he often passed up open looks, freezing the flow of an offense that depends heavily on rhythm and spacing. As the season progressed, defenses began sagging off him entirely, daring him to shoot. The Bucks coaching staff, led then by Adrian Griffin before Rivers took over mid-season, gradually reduced his minutes. By spring, Jackson had gone from intriguing young spark to end-of-bench observer. Offensive fit, a system class. The issue with Jackson isn't effort or attitude, both are widely praised internally. It's about fit. The Bucks' offense, especially under Rivers, revolves around spacing the floor for Giannis and pick-and-roll orchestration through Damian Lillard. That means surrounding them with shooters and decision-makers who can capitalize on open looks. Jackson isn't that, at least not yet. He shot just 26.5% from three-point range last season, often hesitating on catch-and-shoot opportunities or dribbling into less efficient plays. While he's capable of pushing in transition and initiating dribble handoffs, those skills aren't maximized in Milwaukee's slower, half-court sets. This is where the comparison to Amir Coffey becomes particularly concerning. Coffey, while not a star, is the archetype of a modern role player. He can hit open threes, defend multiple positions, and keep the offense flowing without needing the ball. In short, he's exactly the kind of player Rivers tends to trust. If Jackson can't prove he offers more upside than that, even in preseason games, he risks becoming the next casualty of Milwaukee's unforgiving roster calculus. Doc Rivers' role in the equation. It's fair to question how much of this situation is on Jackson and how much is on his environment. Doc Rivers is known for leaning on veterans. Throughout his career, from Boston to Los Angeles to Philadelphia, his rotations have often favored experienced players he deems reliable over younger, developmental pieces. In Philadelphia, that meant heavy minutes for Danny Green and Georges Niang, while young talents like Tyrese Maxey and Paul Reed had to fight for every opportunity. In Milwaukee, the pattern may be repeating itself. Even in preseason, Rivers' substitutions seem designed to test how much veteran stability can outweigh youthful promise. Playing Coffey over Jackson fits that mold perfectly, a subtle but telling indicator of which direction Rivers' instincts lean. What Andre Jackson Jr. still brings to the table despite the recent setback. It's worth remembering why Jackson was drafted in the first place. He's one of the few players on the Bucks roster capable of bringing defensive chaos, jumping passing lanes, trapping ball handlers, and turning defense into fast break opportunities. In an aging roster that often struggles with foot speed, Jackson injects youth and energy that simply can't be replicated by older role players. His high basketball IQ and ability to make quick reads in motion-heavy offenses also make him more versatile than the box score suggests. At UConn, he thrived as a connector, setting screens, making backdoor passes, and initiating dribble handoffs that kept defenses guessing. That skill set could still translate, but only if Milwaukee's offense evolves to accommodate it. Being unable to shoot doesn't make you an offensive black hole, one Eastern Conference scout told The Athletic. It just means you need a system that leverages what you do well: movement, energy, playmaking. Jackson can do those things at a high level, but if you park him in the corner, you're wasting him. The pressure of a championship window timing couldn't be worse for a player like Jackson. The Bucks front office knows their championship window is now. Giannis, Lillard, and Middleton aren't getting younger, and the team's roster construction reflects that urgency. Every rotation decision is made with one question in mind: can this guy help us win in May and June? That reality makes it difficult for raw or one-dimensional players to earn sustained minutes. Coaches and executives prioritize trust over potential, even if that means sidelining younger talent with long-term upside. If Rivers and the Bucks believe Coffey can provide steadier, mistake-free minutes in spot roles, Jackson could quickly find himself squeezed out, not because he isn't talented, but because Milwaukee doesn't have time to wait for his game to catch up. The Bucks' history of short leashes. Unfortunately, this wouldn't be the first time Milwaukee gave up on a young player too soon. Jordan Moore, drafted in 2020, showed flashes as a capable scorer but was eventually traded after struggling to find minutes. Donte DiVincenzo, once a promising two-way guard, was moved to Sacramento after injury setbacks and inconsistency. Marjon Beacham, still on the roster, now faces his own uncertain role as the team continues to favor veterans. For a franchise with limited draft capital and one of the league's oldest rotations, the inability to develop homegrown contributors could become a long-term problem. Jackson represents one of the few remaining opportunities to change that narrative. The numbers don't lie. While Jackson's defensive metrics were solid last season, opponents shot just 42.7% when he was the primary defender. His offensive efficiency ranked among the lowest on the team. According to Cleaning the Glass, the Bucks scored 10.8 fewer points per 100 possessions with Jackson on the floor. That kind of offensive dip is hard to ignore, especially for a team built around two superstars who need space to operate. The solution isn't simple. Jackson must either become a respectable corner three shooter, even 34-35% would change his trajectory, or reinvent himself as a high-usage energy player off the bench, someone who can change the tempo and tilt the momentum through defense and hustle alone. Right now, he's somewhere in between, and that's the danger zone. What comes next? The Bucks still have several preseason games left, and that means Jackson has time, albeit limited, to change the narrative. He doesn't need to suddenly become a knockdown shooter or post double-doubles. What he needs is to show progress, play with confidence, and force the coaching staff's hand with the things he already does well: cutting, defending, communicating, and hustling relentlessly. One league executive put it bluntly: when a player loses minutes to a camp invite, it's not just about talent, it's about trust. Jackson has to make the coaches trust him again. That's how you survive in this league. If he can do that, there's still a path forward. If not, the Bucks may view him as expendable, especially with roster flexibility becoming a priority for a team carrying multiple veteran contracts. Why it matters beyond Jackson. This isn't just about one player. Jackson's situation reflects a broader tension that has quietly defined the Bucks roster for years: the inability to cultivate young depth behind their superstar core. While teams like Boston and Oklahoma City have built layers of contributors through the draft, Milwaukee's win-now model has come at the cost of internal development. That's fine when titles are flowing, but it becomes risky when the window starts to close. If Jackson flames out, it won't just be another personal disappointment, it'll represent another missed chance for the Bucks to find low-cost, long-term contributors in a salary-capped league where every dollar counts. The wake-up call for Andre Jackson Jr. The preseason minutes distribution is more than a minor coaching decision. It's a loud and clear warning about where his career stands. He's no longer the wide-eyed rookie experimenting with an NBA playbook. He's a second-year player whose future depends on rapid growth, and the organization is watching closely. Being benched for a training camp invite isn't a death sentence, but it's a wake-up call that he can't afford to ignore. The message from Doc Rivers and the Bucks coaching staff is simple: produce or be replaced. If Jackson responds with the same defensive fire and confidence that made him a UConn champion and a second-round gem, he can still carve out a meaningful role. If not, he risks becoming another forgotten name in Milwaukee's revolving door of young prospects who never quite got the chance to stick. The crossroads moment. Every player faces a defining moment early in their career, the stretch where talent meets reality and potential meets consequence. For Andre Jackson Jr., that moment has arrived. The Bucks have made their expectations clear. The only question now is whether he'll meet them. Because in a locker room full of veterans chasing a title, there's little room for slow learners or long-term projects. If Jackson wants to stay in Milwaukee and in the NBA, he'll need to show the same urgency the organization now demands. The wake-up call has been delivered. The next move is his.